Normally, we would start with podcasts every day in either April or August. However, we had to push back. So we're calling it PEDS, or Podcast Every Day in September, where you'll hear various topics that will likely have nothing to do with sports, but you'll definitely get a good feel of what's going on in the world thanks to PEDS. What's good, y'all? What's going on? Episode 206 of The Pass is here. Hope everyone's doing well. As always, I'm your host, BT. Have a very balanced episode today. Not really here to give y'all all the fluff and BS. We're going to go ahead and get right into it. You will notice that the intro may be a little different as far as for those of my normal weekly listeners. I'm kind of changing, well, two things. You'll see that the weekly intro is going to be changed for, knew that was coming, the podcast every day in September. So we'll have that one just for this month. And then once October arrives, we'll be back to our regular intro. And also the second part, because I was kind of sitting here contemplating, I was like, do I want to keep continuing to do the daily or the life words as far as the inspiration? But as I'm sitting here, I'm like, there's a benefit, but there's also not we're going to kind of do some inspirational motivation through the month. So what I did decide, because it is a big deal and I've kind of seen this slightly be a circulated discussion, is and this link will be permanent because I did initially have the other link that I was sharing at the beginning of the year for the National Domestic Violence Hotline. What I'm going to share now is the National Suicide Prevention Line. That number is 1-800-273-8255. Now, I'm going to say this because I want to be clear, be transparent about something. I know in most instances, calling those numbers may or may not be of benefit to those who are in need of that specific situation. Totally get it. That being said, if you are truly concerned for your friends or those that you know, reach out to them. And I can't emphasize that enough, only because I have personally witnessed many of my friends not be in their best headspace, and it can be an impacting process on them individually. So finding that person to quote unquote reach out to or talk to isn't just a simple, okay, let me pick up the phone and talk to them and tell them what's going on. Because a lot of times by nature, we keep everything bottled up. So I'm here to tell anyone, if you feel a friend needs someone to reach out to them and say hi. Sometimes saying hi could be the alley that they need to oop into whatever's going on. And that's the sports reference I'll use. That's pretty cheesy, but we'll just let that be what it is. We're going to jump right into the sports today. The first topic, which was I guess you could say the monumental story, is, and I want to make sure I have names right for this story, because if I remember correctly, yeah, good. Okay. Aaron Donald from the LA Rams earned a 6-year extension worth $135 million. $87 million of that is guaranteed. So that story broke, and it led to the storyline of Khalil Mack, because everyone, or the intrigue or the buzz was, is Khalil Mack going to re-sign with the Raiders? Is someone else going to pick him up? What's the outcome, or what's going to be the next step? Well, that answer has been given. We have our place of where we are with it. And it turns out that Khalil Mack was traded to the Chicago Bears. And he was able to get a nice payout from Chicago for a 6-year, $141 million. So we'll kind of break down this story and deep dive into it a little bit, and its stats and kind of the demand versus the supply. The Chicago Bears reached a record-setting 6-year, $141 million extension with Khalil Mack on Saturday. Chicago acquired the pass rusher from the Oakland Raiders earlier in the day and later announced the extension, but didn't release the terms. He's officially the highest paid defensive player in NFL history. The deal would be slated to average $23.5 million per season. It does include a $90 million guarantee. $90 million of that contract is guaranteed, and $60 million would be at signing. The Bears did give up their first-round picks for 2019 and 2020, a third-round pick in 2020, a sixth-round pick, and a sixth-round pick in 2019 to acquire Mack. In return, the Bears also received a second-round pick in 2020 and a conditional fifth-round pick in 2020. The contract did eclipse a record for a defensive player set just a day before when the Rams signed Aaron Donald to their six-year, $135 million deal. The $90 million that's guaranteed for Mack is about $20 million more than Raiders quarterback Derek Carr is being paid. As soon as the story broke, it was, as they always say, the Twitter sphere went bonkers. Derek Carr tweeted, "This is a sucky part of the business. Mornings like this, but we have a season to play and games to win. We feel your pain, trust me, but we need you next Monday night. What a shock. Now move on and win. Time to beat the Rams." Over the past 48 hours, the Raiders had engaged in active trade talks with multiple teams, including the Jets. The Raiders were asking for 2 first-round picks. Other teams made enticing offers of multiple picks, but the Bears were willing to offer the most of the options available. Raiders GM Reggie McKenzie said that more than half of the league had called the Raiders to inquire about Khalil Mack in a trade. And they just kind of go more in depth with the deal. Some of his personal accolades: Mack is the 4th player to be traded after winning a Defensive Player of the Year award, along with Jason Taylor, Pat Swilling, and Keith Miller, according to ESPN Stats and Info. Khalil Mack is the youngest of the group at the time of being traded at the age of 27. To kind of give an overall timeline of a couple big names and big contracts that hit all at one time. On Monday, Odell Beckham Jr. signed for 65. He got $65 million guaranteed with the Giants. Aaron Rodgers got $103 million guaranteed with the Packers. Aaron Donald was able to get $87 million guaranteed with the Rams, with the LA Rams. And then Khalil Mack, the most recent, was able to get his deal with the Bears. Khalil Mack was number 5. He was number 5 overall pick in the 2014 draft. He stayed away from the Raiders' voluntary off-season training program and held out of the team's mandatory 3-day minicamp in June. Oakland exercised the 5th-year option on Mack's contract last summer, which was worth $13.8 million. If he had played under those terms this season, the Raiders could have used the franchise tag on him next year, which he was likely trying to avoid. Mack made league history in 2015 by being named first-team All-Pro at both outside linebacker and defensive end, after being honored at the league's best defender in 2016. So yeah, Mack joins the Bears defense that includes Roquan Smith, who had his own holdout this offseason before signing his rookie contract. 2016 number 9 pick Leonard Floyd. Chicago ranked 9th in points allowed and 10th in yards allowed last season. Tough part with the Bears is defensively they'll be okay, but offensively there's going to be concern, and that's obviously not being looked at or addressed right now. Mack has 40.5 career sacks. His quarterback pressures since coming to the league has been at 185.5. There was also a ripple effect in Las Vegas. The Bears have gone from 100 to 1 to 40 to 1 to win the Super Bowl, while the Raiders dropped from 20 to 1 to 40 to 1. I will so to kind of give this wrap this up in a bow and give it a nice little presentation. It's all like, people hate to use this term, or they hate hearing this term. And Raiders fans, if you're in your feelings or you about to have a moment, turn off the podcast for this next little 2 or 3 minute rant. The Raiders should have been able to pull the trigger to get this trade done. To get this deal done for paying Khalil Mack. The tough part that I guess is missing is, were the Raiders willing to take that risk on paying him after just paying David Carr, as well as what are they looking to do with Marshawn Lynch? Because a lot of teams, or a lot of cases, it's going to be the focal point of what's our priority. Are we focusing on our offense, or are we focusing on our defense, or are we just focusing on trying to win? Teams, and primarily players are going to focus on trying to get the money. Because at the end of the day, there are 32 teams in the NFL. Out of those 32 teams, only one team can win a Super Bowl every year. If we've gone back and looked at history, even with the Patriots winning as much as they have, it hasn't been an easy road, even with them making it to a couple of those Super Bowls to have the chance of winning. So you paint that picture and you add the factors and look at where things are with the team. Either they could have won, it could have been a good matrimony, or it could have just turned out not really being in the best interest for where it all came down to, or what the factors were. The story did leak, and the tough part with us being in the Bleacher Report era is that rumors are going to swirl after the trade or after the deal happened. And a story came out related to the main factor of, if the Raiders were looking to re-sign him after Aaron Donald's deal, there wasn't really a strong chance of them being able to offer more than what the Rams had offered. Personally, I think that's bogus. That's bull, but that's me talking. I think they just weren't willing to pay that, give that payout for him. And that's their choice, and that's their personal option. But he is now with the Chicago Bears. We'll see if he comes in and makes an impact. If the conversation comes up of him being put in the words of the infamous Brian Urlacher, who just recently got inducted to the Hall. So man, and also it's a factor of if he even stays with the team. So there's no telling of that either. Sticking to football, Michael Kendricks was almost considered to be ass of the week, but we have some other more phenomenal asses of the week this week. But Michael Kendricks was released by the Cleveland Browns once there was confirmation of him being involved with charges of insider trading. The GM, John Dorsey, gave a statement on the team's decision, stating that the circumstances had changed. The exact message was, prior to signing Michael, we were informed that there was a financial situation that he had been involved with in 2014. We were told Michael had fully cooperated with investigators as a victim. From what was communicated at that time, and based on the numerous questions we asked and further due diligence on our part, including checking with the league office, there was no information discovered that conveyed otherwise. Recently, we were provided an update on the matter, and the circumstances have changed. We are now dealing with a different set of facts, and the additional information we've gathered has led us to the decision of his release. He had made about $1.2 million by trading ahead of 4 acquisition announcements, and has been charged with conspiracy to commit securities fraud and committing securities fraud. He faces a maximum prison sentence of 25 years, as well as a $5.25 million fine. He did admit fault to his actions in a statement. Back on Wednesday, he stated, "I would like to apologize. 4 years ago, I participated in insider trading, and I deeply regret it. I invested money with a former friend of mine who I thought I could trust and who I greatly admired. His background as a Harvard graduate and an employee of Goldman Sachs gave me a false sense of confidence. To this point, I had worked my tail off since I was 5 years old to become a football player. I was drawn in by the allure of being more than just a football player. While I didn't fully understand all the details of the illegal trades, I knew it was wrong, and I wholeheartedly regret my actions. According to Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com, the Browns were aware the 27-year-old was part of an investigation when they signed him, but they did not know he was the focus. He initially had signed a 1-year, $25 million deal back in June. He had been with different teams. He recently he spent his first 6 seasons with the Eagles starting in the team's Super Bowl win on February. He started in 74 of the 85 games he has played in since the Eagles drafted him. Joe Schobert and Christian Kirksey will remain key parts of Cleveland's defense with Kendricks no longer on the team. The fact that he did it and thought nobody gonna know he did it just kind of didn't add up to me. Even if you had somebody else involved in doing the books, you can't be that slow or that special. But obviously, we're witness to someone being that slow and that special. But he's no longer with the Browns. Whether a team will or won't pick him up is going to be solely on the basis of his portion with if he actually ends up getting a jail sentence or not. So that all has to be played to effect as well. Sticking even more with football, the injury bug has struck once again. And this is one that's tough because ACLs have become the major injury trend of the NFL for the last couple years. And I don't know what's caused it, what's had us reach this point, but we're here. And now it's starting to kind of tumble out of hand a little bit. Jerick McKinnon, who was the starting running back for the 49ers, tore his right ACL while making a cut on the last play of practice. Kyle Shanahan said McKinnon made a cut and immediately went down on a non-contact play. He's looking to be back stronger next season. He just kind of wrote a message saying, I just want to thank everybody for the encouraging messages, calls, love, and support. I'm so grateful to have so many loving people in my life. This is a blessing in disguise. I'll be back stronger than ever in 2019. I'm going to kind of break this one down pretty cut and dry. Because McKinnon's injury was non-contact and because of how it looked, Shanahan acknowledged that there was an immediate concern that it was ACL related. He missed most of the preseason with a calf strain, which he suffered in practice back on August 12th. He'd been working his way back, but was expected to be ready for the September 9th game against the Vikings. Shanahan said it was McKinnon's first time working back in live team drills. He was expected to be the Niners starting running back. He had signed a 4-year, $30 million deal in the offseason and had hopes of making him one of the focal points of the offense. And as many of you know, and I'll share this because this is important, since next Sunday, well, this Thursday technically, we're starting football. Everything's about the business. Everything's about, and I know I emphasize that everything's about the business, but I'll explain why I say that. When teams are trying to shave their roster down, they look at who's valuable, who do we need to put on our practice squad, how do we need to manage our team, who do we need to just go ahead and cut. And the main focal point is to get your team down to what's considered a 53-man roster. If this injury had happened earlier, it wouldn't have been as bad because you could have, got him. I ain't gonna say get him off the books, but you could have gotten another running back in place and not be as embattled by the process of trying to get somebody. But now that you've had this big of an injury hit at this point after your 53-man roster was released, it's going to catch up to them in hindsight. And then we're also looking at it as Gabbard, Garoppolo is now being put in a position of having to carry the load even more. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we really can't say yet, only because the team has to kind of finalize, the chemistry. Because last season, the games that he started, they won all 4 games, which for a lot of the fans, the 49ers fans, that was a joy and a blessing in itself. So to go from that experience to now to say it without saying it, you're starting over is huge. So now they're just kind of looking to see what their next steps are and how they're going to handle life after this injury. Sticking to going into football, but kind of going on the opposite end of football, we have our draws set up now for the Europa League and the Premier League. I'm sorry, not Premier League, and the Champions League. And all I can say is wow. That is the cleanest and the nicest way I can put it is wow. Europa. So we'll do Europa first. We have our group set up for that. And there are more groups in the Europa League than the actual Champions League. For the Europa League, in Group A, and as I do each year, these names will be bludgeoned, but I'll do the best that I can. Group A is Bayer Leverkusen, Ludogorets, FC Zurich, and AEK Larnaca. Group B will be Red Bull Salzburg, Celtic, RB Leipzig, Rosenborg. Group C is Zenit St. Petersburg, FC Copenhagen, Bordeaux, Slavia Prague. Group D will be Anderlecht, Fenerbahce, Dinamo Zagreb, and Spartak Trnava. Group E, Arsenal, Sporting CP, Qarabağ, and FC Vorskla, excuse me. Group F, Olympiacos, AC Milan, Real Betis, F91 Dudelange. Group G, Villarreal, Rapid Vienna, Spartak Moscow, and the Rangers. And Rangers, or Rangers, I don't know. Group H, Lazio, Marseille, Eintracht Frankfurt, and Apollon Limassol. Group I almost said Group E, like I was in Italy again. Group I is Besiktas, Genk, Malmo, and Sarpsborg 08. Group J is Sevilla, Krasnodar, Standard Liège, and Akhisarspor. Group K is Dynamo Kiev, Astana, Rennes, and FK Jablonec. Group L is Chelsea, PAOK or PAOK, Bate Borisov, and VDFC. The group stage fixtures will be played on Thursdays, with the dates scheduled to be September 20th, October 4th, October 25th, November 8th, November 29th, and December 13th. Sporting could prove tricky opponents for Arsenal and a rival for top spot in Group E, but the Gunners should be confident of progressing ahead of Qarabağ and Vorskla. The long away trips to Ukraine and Azerbaijan will do them favors, though. Their recent history in Ukraine won't give them much encouragement either. It could be a difficult early test for manager Unai Emery, who will need to make use of his squad depth to ensure the Gunners progress while minimizing the impact on their domestic efforts. As for Chelsea, there should be little standing in their way of top spot in Group L. Although the traveling required of the Blues isn't as demanding as Arsenal's, ESPN FC's Liam Twomey believes Mauricio Sarri will look at his youth and fringe players to see them through. And then they get more information about the leagues and the groups. But this, the Europa League doesn't get its fair share of attention, but it is a championship. For many teams, when it comes down to the, looking at a team's resume, they value it. I guess it's ironic for me this year because there could be a possibility AC Milan and Chelsea may play against each other, but we'll see. But those are my two teams that are both in this league. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out for them as I know how. Swinging over to the Champions League, we have a very, I realized there was a such thing, but I didn't know that it actually genuinely existed until watching this draw. Because if any of you all remember with the World Cup, there were death stages that occurred, and we went through the World Cup quick this year. So there was, quite the fair share of ups and downs for different teams. But looking at the groups, I think they said the heaviest group to me is, would have to be Group C. And that's PSG, PSG, Napoli, Liverpool, and Red Star Belgrade. Group B is close because you have Barcelona, Tottenham, PSV, and Inter Milan. Man City has a pretty chill group with Shakhtar, Lyon, and Hoffenheim. The other groups, Group A, you have Atletico Madrid, Dortmund, Monaco, Club Brugge. I'm going to go ahead. I already knew it was coming, so I'm just going to let that play. Group D, Lokomotiv, Moscow, Porto, Schalke, and Galatasaray. Group A, you have Bayern Munich, Benfica, Ajax, because for the longest time I called them Ajax, but Ajax, and AEK Athens. Group G, you have the defending champions, Real Madrid, Roma, CSK Moscow, Osiska Moscow, and Victoria Plzeň. And with Group H, you have Juventus, Man U, Valencia, and Young Boys. I don't know why I want to say the Young Boys, but it's Young Boys. So those are your groups. There's really going to be a lot of battling in group stages are already going to be challenging as it is. Like if we look back at the World Cup, I think it was Germany's group that was the deaf group. Because I want to say Mexico and Germany were in the same bracket. I don't remember. I don't have a spreadsheet because I let it go. But yeah, just those matchups alone is definitely going to slate to be some strong competition going down in Champions League. So those matches will be played. I don't have the schedules for that as of right now. Once matches start to show and start to develop, you'll definitely hear those be implemented into the podcast as always. All right, so that is everything we have for sports. Stuff is a little light but heavy. And as y'all know, I always say that, but literally it's just a matter of it's light things that are coming, but it's not really anything too massive or too extreme. Keynote I don't have this shared yet because we need to officially see the keynote and then kind of break it down. I believe on the 17th of this month, that will be our talk about the Apple keynote and what's coming on the new iPhone, because it will have been unveiled by then, along with the Apple Watch. There was talk that if you have the first Apple Watch, I think I have the Series 1. If not, then oh well. But if you have they call it, I think it was called the Apple Watch Zero. That's how they're kind of defining it. But if you have that particular watch, you wouldn't be getting the the Watch OS 5 update. So a lot of people are going to kind of be in their feelings about that, but it's nothing to make a big scene about. There was talk about the iOS 12 as to some features that are going to be helpful to end users, which, no one's going to complain about that if they can help it. But I actually am going to start off the stuff with a little bit of podcast help to those who have, and I've talked about this on the show a lot. I'm always promoting and I always talk about the Blue Yeti, and the Blue Yeti microphone is everything. Love it. Still working to get sponsorship, patience, but also networking. But anywho, I've seen the Blue Yeti. I've used the Blue Yeti now for over a year. I personally like the microphone. It's been my helpful resource, whether I'm having it, as most of you probably would be able to assume, on a stand. I use the default stand sometimes, but in most cases I come out better just either having it hanging, or if I'm using my actual mic stand, I use that. But Yeti or Blue microphone has decided that they are going to help those who are aspiring to do podcasting, or those who are looking at, really wanting to captivate or enhance their involvement with YouTube, to purchase what's considered as the Baby Yeti. Well, the nickname they gave in the title is the Baby Yeti, but the actual name of the microphone is the Yeti Nano. It's small. It's slightly smaller than the original Yeti, and it's more affordable. It's $100. Now, what's ironic, because I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I got mine for 100. It was either 100 or 110. But everything's about deals. This is coming out, I'm assuming, let's see. I want to make sure I give you the correct info, because it is available now. If you were to get it now, you're looking at it September. By November, there could be a deal on the microphone. I'm going to go on a limb and say that the original Yetis may decrease in price a little bit come Black Friday or Cyber Monday. All a matter of what business is trying to get what revenue. For months, I've been asking Verge audio maestro Andrew Marino for his recommendation of the best podcasting microphone. He keeps telling me the Blue Yeti. I already have offers the best quality, but the Yeti is a cumbersome beast. It's tall and heavy, and I can't keep its cable plugged in while I pivot it down for storage. The cable happens to be extra long and also uses the ancient mini USB connector. So I always have to have it bulking out the Yeti's already considerable frame. Most of these woes are now being corrected by Blue, as the company has just announced a new Yeti Nano that's roughly half the size of the original and costs a more affordable $99. Blue claims it has kept the same audio quality sound of the original Yeti in this new model. It supports sample rates up to 24 bits or 48 kilohertz, as with most Blue's microphone lineup, though that obviously hasn't come without trade-offs. The bigger Yeti has 3 condenser mic capsules inside of it, whereas its smaller sibling has 2. The elder Yeti also has 4 pickup patterns, meaning it can record sound 4 different ways. One is for focusing on the user in front of it. Another is for generating a wide stereo image. The third is tailored to conducting interviews, and the last is omnidirectional, capturing everything around the mic. The Blue Yeti Nano only has the single target and omnidirectional modes, which frankly will be sufficient for most people's purposes. With the compact Blue Snowball already on the market, I had to ask Blue what role the Yeti Nano would play in its product portfolio. And the company said the Nano is intended for those who want to have a more stylish, professional looking setup, but couldn't afford the price or the desk space that the full-size Yeti demands. Overall, the Yeti Nano does look like the necessary simplification that the Yeti lineup needed, though I really would have liked to see Blue moving on from mini USB to a port that's more modern and durable, such as the USB-C that powers every one of my other gadgets. The connector on my old Yeti has gotten loose with all the connections and disconnections it endured over the years, and it's a solitary part of the microphone's design that doesn't feel super solid and durable. The gray Blue Yeti Nano is available to buy now for $99 or 89 euros. Over the coming month, handsome blue, red, and gold variants will also become available. No YouTuber should have to sacrifice looks or elegance for the sake of better sound quality. Now, I will give credit where it's due. When it comes to the simplicity look of the new Blue Nano, I personally like the concept of it by far. It's very convenient. You're still going to get the same sound quality. I'm going to go out on a limb that I'm a Hermit Shell addict. Hermit Shell is the case that I use to carry my Yeti. You may or may not need a mic case for the Nano, but as I'm an advocate of reminding people, because now that I see more people getting into podcasting and or content creating with microphones, if you're getting a microphone, unless you're just not moving it anywhere, having a stand for it doesn't hurt. I think I got my Yeti one week. It was like a Thursday. The mic came in for me. I received it. The following day, my stand came in because I just didn't want to take any chances. That's just me, the inner tech in me being what it is. Everyone's different, of course, but I've kind of seen that to work in my favor. The Nano, you may not need that, but it's good to have. As an added bonus, I will also say not having as many directions or options for recording can help the end user, because if you're recording, I know for me personally, because I have all four settings, I had to use it's a tips and tricks that shows you all four settings. And I had to go in and put that setting to make sure that I would have to pull that screen up to make sure that I had the microphone on the correct setting. Sometimes if let's say I recorded when I've done shows with other people and it's recording both sides, if I forget to update the microphone or change the setting, that it will be set where it's only me. And I even went through that when I first got the Yeti and having to adjust to it, where I was doing doing podcasts with Dimitri when we were on the show together. I would record with him and I'm like, okay, I can hear him. Everything seems fine, but I'm like, why does it feel weird? And I would stand up and I'm like, oh, so I would just adjust the microphone, put it, so that it hears both of us. And it's much different and it's a much different process. So to go from having four options of doing that to just having one option to just pick up everything that needs to be picked up, very helpful, very beneficial. Podcasting, if you're podcasting or YouTube, and it's great. Twitch, I don't know. I've done a couple Twitch streams with my Yeti. Works fine. But the form factor here is the size, obviously, of the mic and also the price. So if you're looking to invest in the Blue Yeti, now I can promote. You can get the Yeti Nano or just get the Yeti mic itself. I'm a Yeti mic guy. I'll put it like this and I'll move forward. If both mics were available right now and I didn't have a Blue Yeti, between the two microphones, personally for me, I would pick the original Yeti, the larger one that takes up more space. Now, I will say this, I'll add this to it, and this is kind of what my factor is, and I'll shut up about the Yeti. Even with the stand and where you place it, there are other alternatives as to how to use the microphone. Before I did podcasting, I personally didn't have a clue what a shock mount was. If you really listen to when I record with the mic on the shock mount, you can really tell the difference of the sound and how everything sound wise is condensed to where you're going to hear my voice. And it's not everything else is going on. The Nano is going to have that feature and that availability. If you're paying the same price, if you find, like, everything's about finding the right deal at the right price at the right time. And that's my best outlook or perspective about the Nano, the new Nano, as well as the Blue Yeti original. So we'll kind of stick with sounds a little bit, but this is a story that I just recently got information about, so I decided I would share this with you all. First and foremost, I like UE's interface and attention with their products. I personally have never bought a UE speaker, but UE has a speaker that is called the Boom, which is their smaller speaker. I guess it would be somewhat like the Clip, but it's like in between the Clip, the JBL Clip, and the JBL Charge. That's kind of the best way I can describe it. If you have the show notes and you're looking at the link, it's pretty much explained there. But UE Boom's latest app update removes its compatibility with Amazon Alexa. Okay, good job. They put out a joint statement to The Verge explaining they're focusing on their core product. The new version no longer supports alarms on the speaker, according to the update notes on Google Play. The company explained that they introduced the update to the app to focus on enhancing the core functionality of the speakers. The company noted that the Alexa will continue to be available on its Blast and Mega Blast speakers. Many users have left 1-star reviews complaining the new update slows down the app. Users have noticed that the ability to remotely power up UE devices has disappeared as well. Although a UE Boom spokesperson says they haven't removed the feature and that it's the most popular feature by far. They did give an update about this yesterday, stating that it was updated to reflect the comments from UE Book regarding its remote power up feature. Now, the UE Boom is a good speaker. Having or not having this feature, in my opinion, is not going to be the end of the world. As many of my Bluetooth speakers as I own, none of them are Alexa enabled. Stop listening. I knew it was going to happen at some point. But number one, I have mostly Apple products, so it's a little different. But I already have a speaker that can do things that you all just heard. And Mike Murphy, I don't know if you listen to my shows, but I usually do learn to mute or silence my speaker. But the last couple of shows, it hasn't occurred, and it is what it is. But I'm working on it. But at any rate, whether this is a big deal or not, it's all a matter of the users who own those specific speakers. But it's not in hindsight. Some people, and I'll add this and move on. There are some people who are going to 1-star review something or dislike something just by nature. And that's okay. That's their choice. That's their option. They're welcome to do so. And that's really all I have on that. The GoPro, which now makes my GoPro ancient but still beautiful, because I'm not buying another GoPro. There's no point. The GoPro 4 Session is what I have. I've had it now about 3 years. I've done a fair share of recording. I'm looking to do more recording soon. Once I'm doing things that requires me to record. But the GoPro Hero 7 is coming soon. And the image leaked. And if you look at the image, you can kind of get a general idea. It was likely at a Best Buy. GoPro's next camera appears to have leaked via store display. They show off the camera, the company's Hero 7 camera, which is expected to be announced later this month. The camera appears to come in 3 colors: white, silver, and black. The display also shows off some of the usual features that we've seen with prior models, like image stabilization and that it's waterproof up to a depth of 33 feet. A couple of the models appear to come without a front screen, echoing what we saw with the Hero 4 line, where the silver model came without the screen, while the black version did. GoPro has had a rough couple of years. It slashed its camera lineup to 3 models in the spring of 2016 in an effort to focus its lineup and cut costs. It launched a 360-degree camera called Fusion and the Hero 6 camera last year, which bumped up specs from prior models. It also got out of the drone business this past spring. Those efforts to slim down a bit appear to have succeeded. The company had a profitable quarter last year. Earlier this year, the company released the Hero, a new entry-level camera, and indicated that others would follow later this year. There was an update stated that the original gallery on Imager has been removed and the source link from Reddit has been added. So GoPro quick story, and there's not much really to say with GoPro. First and foremost, if you were watching if any of you watched the World Cup, and I didn't notice this until I started to really pay attention, before the teams would walk out to the locker room, there was a camera that was sitting between both teams. I think they had one facing both teams, I'm not sure. But there were a lot of GoPros used in Russia at the World Cup. I'll leave it at that. That's number one. Number two, GoPro has to do what they can to stay within the market, because not everyone is going to find the convenience in carrying another camera with their smartphone, where most smartphones are able to take high-end, quote-unquote, robust photos that most people are demanding. The difference is whether you're looking to take photos or do recording of videos. Do you really want to record a video with your phone, or would you rather record it with an actual device? So that's also something to factor in or look at with the recording option. All of that being said, the Hero 7, when it comes out, it's going to kind of put people in the position of figuring out what do they want to do consumer-wise and how they want to handle their recording pleasures. That's kind of the nicest way of saying it without saying it. Before we get into our asses of the week, because both of these cornballs just, when I say stupid people do stupid shit, like literally stupid people find ways to do stupid shit. We will go ahead and I'll go ahead and give my music sesh this week, because wow, where do I begin? First and foremost, Diggy, I didn't even realize Diggy had brought out some new music. When Ash shared some songs with me, I'm looking and I'm just listening to the songs like, oh, okay, this is cool. Didn't put 2 and 2 together till I saw the pictures, and I'm like, oh, Diggy runs house, his son, whatever. But the song Anchors, I would recommend. It is what it is. We started a playlist up. If you have not listened to it already, it's called Feel Good Vibes. If you need some songs, just kind of take you to that chill place. It's definitely a queue of music to listen to. Korean Trap Life is my new playlist now that I randomly can find and get a joy out of. I was late to the party. When I did the podcast with Soul Gab, with Ash and Jazz, and Tom was on with us, and they would constantly use the term FRFR. I knew the song was on the Wiz Khalifa album, but I didn't really listen to it until I really listened to it. And sometimes music does that to you, where you listen to it the first time and you really don't pay any attention to what you heard until you go back the second time and you're like, oh, that's okay. So that was not what I expected, but I got it. I'm locked in, and you have my attention. Going back and looking at my recently played, obviously I have to talk about, well, I don't have to talk about this, but I'm going to give my personal thoughts and not really make it into a long-winded 4-page letter. Eminem is back. No, Eminem is not playing with y'all. Eminem definitely went into his musical bag of sorts, and his album is the definition of content. So I'm doing a writing challenge this month, and I forgot that I was supposed to do the writing challenge. So I looked at ways to live my best life this year, and that was up there, and I was like, oh, maybe I should do that. So one of the things they said was, what do you define as content? Eminem's album is content. If you're not an Eminem fan, don't waste your time listening, because you're going to have your bias or your dislikes towards it anyway. I'm an indifferent fan of his, so it's not like I have a yay or nay towards or against him as an artist. So there's that factor. On the flip side, the album actually surprised me as to how good it was. And I think what's tough about it was Kamikaze. The Kamikaze album was a shocker compared to what we had received from Revival last year. Revival wasn't the best album. Call it what it is. On the flip side, Kamikaze, he did as media is going to portray it, and as the album kind of presented itself as somewhat of a diss track towards Joe Budden and academics. And it was just him speaking his mind, just giving his thoughts about, their opinions towards or against him. Now, I would play it, but I don't want to have my podcast caught, so I'm just not going to do that. But anywho, it's if you have not listened to it, the name of the song is called Fall off of the album, and it's pretty good. I'm trying to think of what other music sessions caught my attention. Hold tight. Let's see. And Kamikaze. I listened to a little bit of Bloom. Young Boy Never Broke Again. Haven't listened to those. I think I did listen to those 4 tracks, and it was like so quick that I need to listen to it again. Kanye West has a new single called Ecstasy. Haven't listened to it yet. Michael Jackson and Mark Robinson came together to collab an album called Diamonds Are Invincible. Let me make sure, because I feel like, okay, so it's just that one track, but there are it was almost like you kind of were anticipating like another album to be dropping, but it's Diamonds Are Invincible is a new track that was released. Trying to think of what else. Carrie Underwood has a new album, which I have not listened to. J-Rock has a new album that dropped on Friday. And yeah, that's mainly all I've listened to recently. I've just been kind of playlist jamming right now, and still kind of every so often going back to my backyard boogie, the true backyard playlist, just to kind of chill and get that relaxed vibe. One other music note, and then I'll do Ass of the Week, because I was kind of upset I didn't get to go, but I also know I can't control life because I was at work, number one, and number two, broke 5 broke is no joke. Anyway, yesterday, Art of Noise occurred here in Richmond, which, long story short, it is DJ Lonnie B getting on the ones and twos and doing what he does and just making great music. So I did get some interactions and updates of the event, which looks like it was a joy. I even got to see a couple videos. So it looked like it was a good show. Next year, that's on my to-do list to go. So that's what I have on the music sesh for this week. And now our favorite point of the show, the asses of the week. Ass number 1 will be going to Ron DeSantis, where there was let's see, the video is 2.5 minutes, so it may not even play during the video. Fresh off of his victory in the Florida Republican gubernatorial primary, Representative Ron DeSantis said Wednesday that voters would monkey this up if they elected his African-American Democratic opponent, Andrew Gillum, to be governor, immediately drawing accusations of racism. The remark provides a controversial beginning to what will be a closely watched general election campaign for the Florida governorship, which puts DeSantis, who is closely aligned himself with President Donald Trump, no surprise, against Gillum, a progressive backed by independent Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. Calling Gillum an articulate spokesman for the far left, DeSantis said during an interview on Fox News when asked about his opponent, "The last thing we need to do is monkey this up by trying to embrace a socialist agenda with huge tax increases and bankrupting the state. Gillum will become the state's first black governor if he were to win in November." "Well, I'll try to be articulate, Chris," Gillum told Chris Cuomo on CNN's Cuomo Primetime, and simply say that kind of vitriol, and he's apparently given up the whistle. They've gone to the bullhorn with these kind of tactics, but they're not going to work. And they just go into more information about this. The mere fact that using the statement, monkey this up, had to be presented in your start of this government battle, it's going to, whether people realize it or not, it's going to place a lot of exposure to that, to the government or to that state as a whole. Because if anyone is supporting him that's saying that, that's showing you not that it's really a definition or acknowledgement of undercover racism, but mostly that you can accept someone not pointing out or looking at the facts or the issues at hand with the government. If anything, a man should be focusing on situations with gun laws and people having possession of firearms, things of that nature, stand your ground. Like, those are things that should be a priority. If indeed Andrew Gillum wins, it's going to be a huge meltdown in Florida. That's all I'm going to say. I'm saying that now. And as many of you know by nature, I don't really do politics on the podcast, but this is an exception. Only because, well, and actually both asses of the week are politicians. So I guess this is that one wild card or exception to the rules. But anywho, we have that story. And then Kyle Green, I don't know what the hell he was thinking. He is running for House in Minnesota. He's an organic farmer. He decided to use a racial slur in a campaign that he presented earlier in August. And I'm not going to say it specifically as he said it because it's just stupid. He said, I want to be your state representative. I want to be your public servant. And I want to be your N-word. He made the comments at the end of a video in which he addresses the camera asking for the support of voters in Minnesota District 18A, where he's running as an independent. The video got many views. His reason for stating that is he wants citizens in the state to focus on the real issue at hand, or the real issues at hand. We need to unify as a society, and we need to stop dealing with trivial matters. Green said the N-word is part of American history, regardless of the race, adding, it's part of my history being African American, white, and Cherokee Indian. Okay, I'm not gonna read the rest of this article. This is gonna balance right on out into my clothes, and we're gonna wrap this shit up. Literally. I get that you're trying to make a point, and you're trying to utilize the N-word being used in the context of it being used. But a public statement of it, you're proving that you're an independent, my man. Like, this solidified you as ass of the week. You need to join Mr. Monkey. You know, you need to join the other guy and make sure he doesn't monkey it up. Not Mr. Gillum, but his opponent. And really put yourself in the understanding that wasn't the best time and the best way of making that type of a presentation or statement. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I did not have this as a tab, but I will share it as part of sports because we did have some college football. Maryland was able to pull off an upset. Maryland did do a very traditional for college football. They accepted a penalty for having 10 players on the field. What they did was they had 10 players on defense the first play. The other team already knew they were going to do it. They didn't hike the ball. They intentionally took the penalty. Their opponent did not. They declined the penalty so they wouldn't get charged any yards. And the player that wasn't on the field was someone who was killed or was unable to play during that. Is obviously unable to play during that game. Nick Saban almost took off a reporter's head because of his quote unquote quarterback controversy, which really isn't controversy. He kind of knows who he's starting, but it's almost as though he doesn't want to address it. So he had to PR bullshit his way through apologizing to that reporter. And I didn't think about this until I saw that, and then I'll close. But because of him having a platform like Alabama, you have to truly and genuinely have a way with your words. And this is no exception. As a coach of Alabama, with AT&T as your sponsor and sitting with a Coca-Cola bottle in front of you, even though he may not have done it during any interviews recently, that's likely what you're going to see or acknowledge him as being known with sponsorship-wise. So the last thing you try to do is ruin or mess up scholarships or sponsorships for your school. So I close with all that information, and I just want to tell everyone, thank you all for tuning in. Weekly shows are being posted still on. We're looking at Mondays and Sundays. So it'll be like 1 week it'll be on Monday, the other week it'll be on Sunday. And it's all a matter of my work schedule. If I'm off, those are my safest days to do a longer show. Because I can edit and be a content creator of some sort. And if you are listening to the shows, thank you. If you have gone back to listening to the previous shows, it's appreciated. If you even have went as far to go with when I first started and how random the shows were, is valued. But I just want everyone to know if I shared this as a quote with my friends, and I'm sharing this as a quote with you all. Value your aura. I'll state that as the message to close out with today. Everyone has an aura, or everyone has a way to them. it has to be valued and cherished by you first and foremost. Others are going to get it when they're ready to get it. Don't expect anyone to get who you are overnight. Some people learn their friends in months. Some people learn them in a couple of days. Some it takes years. But value your personal aura. So the things that you're into, value it. If others don't value it, tough shit. But as always, thanks for tuning in. Podcasts are uploaded on Spreaker.com. If you're looking to do podcasting, I would definitely recommend Spreaker. Had a little hiccup with a couple shows, but I think I found a workaround for that. Website, passpodcast.com. And if you're looking to invest in a microphone, I'm on Team Blue Yeti, the normal Blue Yeti. But if you are wanting to start out and you're not sure of what direction to go, and you may not be a permanent podcaster, get the Blue Yeti Nano for $99. Hell, if you want to go as far back, like I tell people from time to time, the Samsung Meteor, one of my favorite microphones. Still upset that it broke or didn't work when I needed it to, but regardless, it's better to start on your craft or start in your skill while you can, because tomorrow, honestly, is not promised. And until next time, take care. That's it for our show. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to go back and listen to any previous episode, you can go to Spreaker.com/BrideTapePodcast, or you can go to PastPodcast.com, where you can listen to all of the latest shows as well as shows from when this podcast first began. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, the Past signing out.